Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are once again talking about the WW2 Chronicles and how to improve it. Last year, we had a very similar event, and I had some very similar criticisms as well. Basically, the only real difference between this event and the previous event is obviously the vehicles that you get, the different awards, which can be enticing for a lot of people, and also the fact that one of these stages has been changed, or one of the challenges has been changed. Before, it was a win in a row type of deal, so you had to win 3 battles in a row. Now, obviously, that's very hard to do as a single player. It generally was something that you would look into, instead of something that you actually earned. So the fact that they changed that to destroy 12-6-3 or 10-3-2 enemies in one battle while controlling an aircraft or a ground vehicle, I think that's a really nice change. I really like the fact that they've decided that that is a change to go for, because it puts the power into the individual's hands. I cannot control what my teammates are doing. I can influence them with markers. I can influence them by going in certain ways, by being shot, by shooting enemies, hoping that they're looking at the map. But since it is completely random matchmaking, I can't do anything when it comes to trying to influence my team to win the battle. All I can do is try and lead from the front, and hopefully they back me up. And 50% of the time they will, and 50% of the time they won't. It's an unfortunate thing. So that is a very positive change. The vehicles, I'm not sure, are as good as the ones from last time. The last time we got the Type 62 and the LVT ZIS 5. This time we get the Matilda with the 76 and the Excelsior. I would say they're pretty comparable. For the planes, we get 2 average but good planes, the PV2D Harpoon and the Yak 3T. Both planes which are going to be middle tiers, tier 3 or 4, probably edging at tier 3. They're, you know, solid aircraft, where last time we got the Kai-21, which is a tier 1 premium useless bomber for the Japanese, and an Me-262, which is a tier 5 gift Me-262 with only 230s. So there was a massive difference between the Kai-21 and the Me-262, where these two are very much similar. So trying to get, maybe once you get the PV2D, you don't see the point in going on, because, well, you're not really going for something that's jet-like or something that's really interesting. It's just another Yak with a different gun, so I'm a little bit disappointed in that. Maybe some variation could have been put in. Maybe you could have put in, if you wanted to do a Yak, you could have put in the Yak which had the 57mm. Let's just see if I can find it right now, because there was one which was made with a 57mm. It was a single production variant. It was the Yak 3T 57, and it was a model. It was the Yak 3T, so the one that we're going to get in game. And instead of the 37 and the 20s, it was fitted with a 57mm OKB-16-57 cannon. So yeah, it would have been nice to maybe get that instead of the 3T, which we have all of the components of it in game anyway. It's nothing new and it's nothing really that special. Even the Yak 3 RD would have been kind of interesting. A single experimental aircraft fitted with the Glushko RD1 liquid fuel rocket engine of 650 pounds per force, or whatever that is, and it actually had a gun. It had an NS-23 in it. So yeah, that could have been interesting if they decided to go down that route. But overall, the vehicles are okay. So are the decals and everything like that, and so are the weapons, since they're different to everything that we've had in game so far. One of the biggest issues for me personally is the fact that not a lot of thought has been put into changing the challenges themselves, even though we've got that wonderful change of disregarding the win three wins in a row or 3 games in a row and putting it a individual challenge in, we've still got challenges which are not particularly very enticing. The one that I always try and aim for is the finish the battle in first place 4 times. The reason I aim for that is because along the way I will kill enemies, I will maybe get some supporting fires, I will win 10 times, and I will definitely at some point destroy X amount of enemies in one battle. So that's basically the one I aim for. Everything else is a subsidiary of that challenge. And even finishing the battle in first place 4 times, the issue with the issue which is always prevalent in all of these stages and challenges is that there is a way to game the system, and I talked about how to game the system yesterday. It's not exactly gaming the system, it's just trying to do it in the most efficient way possible, and it doesn't matter what challenges you're going to do, they're going to exist, especially in a PvP game. So I'm going to bring up some of the ideas that I, brought up last year and some new ones, since we have some new parts of the game, which hopefully we could incorporate in doing these missions. Not everything has to be a PvP game. You don't have to have an event for everything. What if one of the challenges for planes was, why don't you complete this single mission today? Why don't you complete this single mission on realistic battle, on realistic battle mode, and then that's it. You're allowed unlimited ammo, unlimited fuel, but you've got to complete this single player mission. And there are plenty of them in game. Since they want to stick to this World War II Chronicles idea where it's trying to follow battles, then there are many single player missions which do also follow battles as well, and you could even mold them just like you do mold maps to scenarios which you have made up, such as certain battles in the war. You could do single player missions which do that. On a special occasion, maybe a weekend challenge, what you could do is you could say, right, for 2 challenges you have to complete a dynamic campaign. Maybe you get a bonus if you squad up with people. Maybe there you can get your supporting fires, something like that. But it basically means it gives you some more options to the game, instead of just playing the same missions over and over again, because the missions that we have been playing over the last few days, and I know this is going to continue for the next few weeks while these challenges are about, they're going to be very, very similar to the ones we had last time. And I'm already burnt out on them. I already know what all the missions are going to be, I know what tanks I'm going to use, and I know you're limited quite a lot, because generally you want these vehicles to be open to a lot of people, so you have to make sure that the ground forces that you use are lower tiered, such as tier 2 and tier 3, otherwise not everyone is going to have them. If you made every challenge just a tier 5 challenge, then it would be completely useless and nobody would play it. So I understand that, I get that. But when we look at a lot of the missions that have been so far and compare them to the missions that we had last year, well, they're basically the same, and I don't see that trend disappearing. Whenever we've had events over this year, they have been really interesting, weekend events and stuff, but they've never been historical events. Most of them have been interesting uses of game mechanics, or interesting or some very interesting historical events, but a lot of them have been based around game mechanics which they're basically testing out. So whether it comes to torpedoing ships or tanks in the water, whether it comes to races, whether it comes to flying boats and trying to land them in places, all of these things incorporate mechanics which you generally don't see in War Thunder. So therefore, instead of being based around history, they're based around those mechanics. And World War II Chronicles tries to base itself around history. And therefore, most of the time, you have historical battles, which are really cool, but you just keep doing the same battle over again, maybe in a different map. Maybe instead of Poland, you're on Eastern Europe, but you're still basically using the same tanks, maybe one or two different, and maybe they make the difference. Now, as we get into this challenge, we're going to probably have, by the ending stages, what we had before, where we have certain battles where you can have Tigers and Jumbos and 76 Shermans and everything like that, and they'll be balanced by number, and that is another mechanic which I think would be nice to be explored in more battles, just to chop it up a little bit, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Moving on, change the supporting fire challenge. I think the supporting fire one is probably the worst of the bunch, just because most people in War Thunder are not squadded up. I know you want to try and push people to be squadded up with others, but then you've also got to guarantee that your teammates are good players, which if you're randomly squadding up with people, that's generally quite hard to do. They might just randomly have a good game, and then you're stuck with them for ages. And also, when it comes to supporting fire, a lot of the time it just won't register. I don't understand the criteria for supporting fire. I have to get an assist, and my teammate, my squad mate has to get the finishing blow. Well, a lot of the times I would just get an assist, especially when it comes to the air battles, which you have to do. So, I don't understand how that works, unless it's a bug in the system, or maybe you have to do a certain amount of damage, but then again you get the assist. So it makes literally no sense to me. But anyway, supporting fire is one where you have to really, what's the word? You have to depend on your squad mates, which generally is quite a bad idea. That's why I don't really like the win 10 times either, just because you have to hope that your team does well. Now what if you just get a string of 20 games where your teams are awful? Maybe it's down to you, maybe it's the fact that you can't carry 15 other players or 10 other players without, you know, going and getting like 30 or 40 kills. It's impossible to carry in War Thunder. It's very hard, especially in these events, since people can respawn 3 times. If you're in a normal realistic battle, it's actually not too hard to carry. It's actually quite easy. You hold down a flank, they try and push down it, you kill everyone. Simple as that. You've taken out a flank, then you can go around them, you can encircle the rest of them, take everybody out, maybe you run into some AA, it's not too bad. But when it comes to these events, the enemy has 3 respawns, and they can, once they know where you are, they can just respawn, and they can go around you, or they could find a way to shoot you in the side, or they can just go in a plane and enact vengeance with bombs, rockets, or guns if they feel like it. So that is something that has to be considered when we look at the win 10 times thing. But overall, I do think supporting fire needs to be changed. Now, I know that Japanese tanks have been added in, and I know that British tanks haven't been around for that long, but you know what would be nice? If we incorporate more nations. Most of the battles last year, and so far all of the battles this year, have been Russian on Germany. Some of the battles last year were Russian and American on Germany, or American on Germany. Depending on, I believe there was a few fights on Mozdok, which incorporated some American tanks. There was also some on Kursk and Hurtgen Forest, which had American tanks in it. But mostly, it is Germany versus Russia. Now, it gets incredibly boring, if that is the case all the time. I know that Germany and Russia were the first 2 nations put into the game, but we've had other nations for quite a long time, especially when we look at America and also Britain. Britain's been out for at least a year now. And Japan, even though it's young, you could easily make some nice missions out of it, especially if you wanted to do Tier 1 stuff. You could do Tier 1 Americans versus Tier 1 Japanese, or Tier 2 Japanese versus Tier 2 Americans. As long as you don't do Tier 3, is it Tier 3 and 4, where you have the Chaffee and the Bulldog for the Japanese? Yeah, that could get a bit confusing. But instead of that, just do Tier 1 and Tier 2. And there you go. It would at least be a little bit more interesting instead of just playing the same tanks over and over again. What I've played the last few days is the Stug 3, because Russians don't know where to shoot the Stug 3 in realistic, and either the BF-109 F1 and the BF-109 F2. The reason for this is because you're giving me a challenge in the event. I have to be competitive in this event because you've told me that I have to win 10 times, and I also have to place I have to place first on the team either 4 or 5 times. I'm going to be trying my hardest. I'm going to be using everything that I can in my favor, and that includes choice of vehicle. So, if I'm on the Russian side, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get in a BT-7 straight away. This was the previous days. I'm going to go on Kappa Point, I'm going to J out, and I'm going to get in a T-34. Yes, I lose a spawn, but guess what? I get a T-34 and I'm going to destroy everything. Today, what was I going to do? Well, I get in a T-28 and I just go and sit on a point. And then, once I get a point cap and then a kill, I J out, I get in a T-34. Because I want to be as competitive as possible. I want to be in the best vehicle possible. I want to be at the top of the scoreboard because you're forcing me to through the challenges. So, even though there are tons of different vehicles that you can use in these events, you're only going to see a few of them. For the Russian side, the BT-7 and the T-28, and then whatever monstrosity they get when they get enough points. You're never really going to see anything else. If you do, guess what? They get creamed. Because the other side is using the best tanks as well. On the other side, you have the Panzer III J1 and the Panzer IV-E, I think it was, and the Stug 3A, which I seem to be the only person running in, and that was basically because nobody knew where to shoot it. So, when you want people to be as competitive as possible and working towards stages which mean that they have to be as competitive as possible, what you end up making is a scenario which is incredibly boring for most players because they're going to play it in the most optimum way, they're not going to have fun, and they're just going to do it over and over and over again until the challenges are completed, and then they're going to be sick of it and have to take a break from the game. That is basically my experience the last few times of doing this, because you have to be competitive. There is no fun involved in doing stuff like this, and if you are having fun, well done, but it's very hard for me to do. Mission diversity. So we've just got some new maps in War Thunder. In the last few updates, we have Sinai now, we have the Ardennes, which I've only seen twice, by the way. I'm still doing the map analysis stuff, but I've only seen them twice in game. I don't know where they are. I don't know who's playing these maps. I want to meet you, I want to shake your hand and ask your opinion of them. Because in the meantime, I can't do proper map reviews because, well, Guardian won't give me them. We've had some reworking of other maps, such as Kursk, with the center point with the church on it. We have, in the little town, we have a bunch of other maps which got reworked. And as I said, like Sinai, we have the desert map. We even have the Middle East map from the April Fools, if you want to throw that in. That could be an interesting map. But you need some kind of mission diversity, not just by the maps, but also what you have to do in the missions. Instead of just capping 3 points, maybe you throw in not a conquest mode, so it's fighting over just 1 point, or maybe you just make it a ground strike mode where you're fighting, where each side has a point and the other side has to capture. You've got to throw in stuff like that. You can't just have over and over and over again the same map with 3 same points. It is incredibly boring, especially when you're asking me to play these maps generally around 20 or 30 games, because if you want me to get that win 10 times achievement, then yeah, I'm gonna have to play these at least 20-30 games, and that's a conservative estimate. We could easily look at 40 to 50 games if we're talking about pilots and tankers at the same time. Now luckily I haven't had to do that, because I've got destroy 30 enemies, destroy X number of enemies, and also finish the battle in first place 4 times and 4 times in the other one, so I haven't had to worry too much about that. But I'm coming at it from a position of an average player who will have to do that, and not just get lucky every time getting the X number of kills. Like destroy 1263 enemies in one battle. The average player is not really going to get 6 realistic battle kills. Maybe if they go to SB and get 3 it's a lot easier, but still it's quite hard to do. So there has to be something different instead of just playing the same map over and over again, because it does get kind of tiring after even the 5th try of the same map. Even in realistic battles we don't have that. Does anybody remember Hokkaido, when that's all at tier 4 British and American, that's all you got? You got Spitfires versus B-17s and Bearcats and P-51s. Do you remember how boring that was? It was incredibly boring. And that's basically what this event is. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. The same vehicles, the same play styles. The only thing that changes is the players, but because everybody is trying to play it in the most optimum competitive way, they all play the same anyway. It's crazy. Next and last point is the fact that they have a new mode, the PvE mode. Why not use it? Why not use it as a stage or a challenge once in a while? How about participate in one PvE game? Maybe you need like 70% battle activity, so you can't just leave right at the beginning of it. Just do that. Throw that in once in a while. Same as the idea of the single player missions. Put in different missions. Put in different challenges instead of just the same 5 ones every time. You could really mix it up. People have so far enjoyed the PvE, so why not just give them another way of playing it for the challenge, instead of just playing the same mission over and over again. Break up the monotony with some other stuff, some parts of your game that you already have that are interesting, that are not just hopefully slung on the dung heap and are used. So yeah, they're the main points. If you want them listed out in a conclusion, we have single player missions need to be used, dynamic campaigns, same addition but more same idea but more expanded. Change supporting fire challenge to assist, even if it's 10 assists or 20 assists, times 2 for RB. That's a hell of a lot better than 5 supporting fires. Incorporate more nations. We have Britain and Japan now in the game, and America. Use them. I don't just want to play Russia and Germany all the time. Mission diversity. Let's have some different stuff instead of just 3 cap points. And PvE. You've got a new system. Why not use it? Use it just to do some challenges along the way. And my voice is dying and I feel very ill. So, I'll see you next time. And hopefully I don't die tonight. I'll see you tomorrow.